What is up, guys? Welcome to the Zenhard Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be interviewing Jerry Rodriguez. He's the founder and owner of Body Concepts Med Spa. He's an expert in biohacking, anti-aging, longevity, and a bunch of other really cool topics. Not only are we going to be diving into ways to improve your health and your well-being, we're also talking about the entrepreneurial journey and the mindset needed to get to where you want to go in life. So I hope you enjoy this. All the information is going to be in the show notes. Links to anything we reference that may be confusing, you could find information on below. I'm super interested in biohacking and health. I mean, probably for the last 10 years or so, I've been down the rabbit hole. I'm one of the people that try anything. Right. So if there's something new and trending and I see something on social media or someone tells me about it, I try it. But oftentimes you don't know if things are working because it takes a while. There are certain things that you feel immediate effects from. Right. Just curious, like when you're having a conversation or you're going to like talk or something like that, are there any supplements or like anything that gives you more verbal fluidity or like cognitive function that you know about?
So for me, probably the last 3 to 4 months, I've been taking NAD.
Yeah.
And that is one of probably out of all the supplements that I've taken, probably NAD has, from a cognitive kind of memory perspective, has helped me. And you read a lot about that in the research as well. I would say BP 157 as well is something not necessarily from a cognitive perspective, but just overall feeling better.
Yeah.
I'm a little older than you, so you know.
Yeah. How old are you?
I'm 52 years old.
All right, so you got not quite 20 years on me. 19 years.
There you go.
I'm 33. So you gave me the NAD nose spray.
Right.
It was like just taking a little shot of energy anytime I needed it through the day. I actually just started taking NAD injections.
Nice.
The peptide version.
Yep.
I've also done the drip. You actually came to my house and we did drip therapy.
Right. That's right.
I don't know if I did NAD that time, actually. No, I think we did something else.
Yeah, we did more vitamin, amino acids and stuff.
Yeah, when my mom was in town and I was trying to
we did you all
influence, to get my mom to do something, I have to make it really easy for her. So it was really helpful that you came by and did the home service. So what do you think about NAD as far as injection, nasal, or drip? Are there, or oral? I mean, are there different...
so there are different avenues that you can take it. There's a product called NMN, which is a precursor to NAD. There's a lot of research going on right there. And, I don't want to name drop people, but there's a famous physician that's doing a lot of research on it. And we're supposed to see something come out here really, really quick on his version of NMN. And so I don't know also one of the things with that, if but they've taken it, it's very difficult to get now NMN.
Yeah.
You cannot no longer buy it at supplement stores.
Yeah.
It's just not available. And part of that is the FDA has put some restrictions on it.
Yeah.
And we'll kind of talk a little bit about what's happening in that world, specifically on the peptides. They've also put a list of peptides that will no longer be able to, that pharmacies will be able to compound anymore. Of course, you can still get it on the research side. But
As all the peptides I buy, they say not for human consumption. And then I inject them right into my human body.
Yeah. So NMN is probably the safest and the easier. It's taken as a dietary supplement once a day, and it helps build your overall. So that's kind of a more consistent way of getting that NAD. You can take subcutaneously, even intramuscularly are some options for NAD. It just depends. Those things will give you a boost, a temporary boost, if you will, for a certain amount of time. And then, of course, the NAD IV, which will give you an immediate boost. Yep. And if you've had one, you kind of know the feeling, you're getting it. And there's a reason it's a 3 to 6 hour drip.
I got mine, and I'm always extreme, so I turned the drip up faster. I got it done in like 2 hours. The whole time I felt this like strong sensation in my chest.
Warm,
so I knew
strong.
It was coming in.
You knew it was coming, and that will give you kind of an immediate boost, if you will, and you'll notice the effects probably for 7 to 10 days, and then your levels begin to drop off a little bit. So, ultimately you want something that's going to give you that more consistency, that not necessarily the boost. The boosts are great, and course, we offer those at our location, so I don't want to discourage anybody from that. But it is good. The booster, great. You do feel, I feel from a cognitive perspective, I just feel, I don't know how your symptoms, but I just feel more alert. I feel like, for me, it's like my eyes are more open and I can absorb more information and process things a little bit. And then my memory recall is just so much faster.
Yeah, which if you think about the compounding effects that having more cognitive function and better memory recall have in your life,
right?
In your conversations, in your business meetings,
Absolutely.
no matter what it is. So when I first discovered NAD drips, I did a loading phase where I did, I think it was 500 milligrams.
Correct.
For 3 days in a row.
Okay.
And it loaded me up, and it was like a $3,000 program. It
is pretty expensive.
Yeah. And I'm the type of person, if someone says it's good, I try it.
Yeah.
But I did feel like, the second day and third day when I woke up in the morning, I felt fresh.
Yeah.
And oftentimes when I wake up in the morning, I feel groggy or tired, and it takes me a vigorous workout or a sauna cold plunge session or something to like get my brain back. But when I was doing the NAD loading phase, I felt super clear in the morning. Absolutely. Why is that? What is it actually doing to you?
So it's definitely providing energy to our cells. It's helping in the whole cell turnover. It's helping, get rid of any toxins, those types of things that are, that our body can't necessarily get rid of sometimes. But it's definitely on the cellular level, providing that energy, providing that new cellular turnaround, those types of things, providing and almost feeding the rest of our body and organs. That's why we kind of feel that way.
So I'm always trying to figure out, how do I have more cognitive function? How do I have more energy? How do I be more clear? How do I have better memory recall? I've been seeing a longevity doctor. They just gave me C-Max and Silanc. Those are other two peptides that are for, they have benefits for your mind and for your cognitive function. Are you familiar with those two?
I'm not familiar with those.
Those are nose sprays as well.
Okay.
But there's so many peptides out there, right? There's hundreds of peptides. There's peptides you can take that change your skin color,
Absolutely.
Right? One's like
from tanning, yeah.
Yeah. So, are there any other peptides that BPC 157? That's for recovery. If you're working out a lot, you feel good. It helps your gut. Are there any other like kind of great peptides that are universally good for people that you know about?
So Samorelin is another one. It was one of the older peptides. Samorelin has been used actually a lot for weight loss.
Yep.
It is also used for recovery and anti-inflammation. Mm-hmm. So that's one that's kind of been out there a while, and they're still doing some clinical research on it. You mentioned the BP 157, which is available subcutaneously or even now by capsule. And the research is showing that you don't even have to, that the effects are just as effective getting capsule. There's always a research that tells you either way. But so for instance, I just finished BP 157 loading. I did 2 months subcutaneously, and now I'm on the capsule, and I'll do that for 30 days. And so it's great when they offer it that way, because then otherwise you'll be stabbing yourself, 5 or 6 times on some of these peptides. I'm sure you've heard of Ozempic and Mounjaro. So Ozempic is semaglutide and Mounjaro is tirzepatide. Those are peptides, and so those are probably the most recognizable ones that we're seeing some significant in the medicine. We're seeing some significant positive outcomes with that. There's a lot of things out there about these particular medications, but definitely the benefits significantly outweigh any of the risk. If you read some of the literature, it's changing people's lives. They're seeing a decrease in, their visceral fat level, which again, visceral fat is attributed to, all of those comorbidities, hypertension, diabetes, congestion, all of those big things. And so that's a big one. Those are the big peptides. I think there are some others. Ipamorelin, if you're familiar with.
I've taken ipamorelin and tesamorelin as a blend. Yep. And I got, I was also doing 75 hard at the time. So I was working out twice a day and eating clean, but I got down to like 6.5% body fat. Yeah. And I've always been in like the 10 to 12 range. So I don't know if I should credit it to the peptides or the extensive workouts and eating clean, but I had never been more, fit in my life than when I was using tesamorelin. Yeah. That's a growth hormone inhibitor, right?
They are. Yes, they are. And so, with that, making sure everyone that, like you said, you're talking to a physician about that. We want to make sure that we're not growing something that's
Well,
in your body that you shouldn't be growing.
I see a longevity doctor, and they said that those are not true. For example, if you have a tumor and you're taking tesamorelin, like it'll make your tumor grow more. He said based on the studies that he's read, and again, I'm not a doctor, don't take my advice, but he said that that doesn't actually cause those types of growths. But growth hormones, people think about that, they think of like steroids or
absolutely.
But growth hormone does a lot for you, right?
Absolutely. It helps with recovery. It helps with anti-inflammation. It helps with muscle building, all of those types of things. I mean, they're great peptides. If used correctly, just like with anything else, in moderation, and there are some cycles off and on, again, under the guidance of a physician, definitely some significant benefits for them, for sure.
Yeah. So some of the other things for me that make me feel really good are cold, hot, contrast therapy. Did you do any of that?
I don't do the cold. I'm not brave enough yet.
Oh, come on. I just did one before this podcast a little while ago, actually.
That's why your skin's so
Dude,
great.
I was up late last night. We deal with China with my business. So our hours are strange. So I was up until midnight. I slept in a little bit. I was groggy. I was like, all right, well, I have a podcast to go do. I need to be verbally fluid. So what do?
Yeah.
You jump in a 40-degree tub of water and it shocks your system and wakes you right up.
Definitely. Cold so people have been, athletes have been doing cold therapy forever in time. And so definitely there's some significant benefits. I know we keep going back to anti-inflammation, inflammation, it's huge. I mean, if we're inflamed anywhere in our body cannot operate, and can't do certain things and heal itself. So it does help with the recovery. It helps with the zombie cells. I'm sure you've heard of the zombie cells. It helps with that. So that shocking of the system. So it does help with cell turnover. All of those things are definitely positive. I do a lot of the infrared and red light therapy.
Oh, yeah?
Actually, I was up late last night and I was saunaing and doing, so my home equipment has the infrared and the red light together.
Oh, in the sauna?
In the sauna.
Oh, which sauna do you have?
I have Sunlighten. I purchased the new Sunlighten.
Did it come with the red light?
Yeah, it's in it as well. So,
wow.
And so I did that last night, and I was in there at 11:30 at night.
Yeah.
But I slept like a baby.
Yeah. So you have the infrared sauna.
I have the infrared sauna. I haven't done the plunge yet.
So I have in my backyard, I have an infrared sauna. I have I just got a new traditional sauna. It's a barrel sauna.
Yeah, I saw that.
The hum drop heater. It's like the heater I got is meant for a sauna that's like 4 times the size. So it gets super hot in like 10 minutes, and it gets up to 220.
Yeah.
The infrared maybe gets up to like 160, 170.
Right.
So I'll use the infrared if I want to chill, read a book, maybe sit there and meditate.
Yeah.
You're not doing any of those activities in my super hot sauna because you're just, So I have both of those.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a benefit of the infrared over the traditional sauna?
I think so. The effects are definitely, the effects that you want is the heat.
Yeah.
And so that's, those are definitely there. There's a lot of controversy on which is more effective and which isn't. I think, for me, the infrared has just worked better for me. We've been infrared saunaing for probably the last 10 years.
Yeah, okay.
And ours broke. So my son is an avid sauna user. And so it broke, and we went like a 4-month stint where we didn't have anything. And so we were like, okay, you definitely feel a difference. And I think you can too. When you don't do it, it feels different.
Yeah. Well, I also think there's when you do something good for yourself, you're kind of telling your subconscious mind that you're taking care of yourself.
Absolutely.
And your subconscious then becomes proud of yourself and feels good and feels worthy. And so like anytime you do something, even if there's no real physical effect of it, just taking the time out of your day to do something good for you.
Yeah.
I think sometimes
No, I agree 100%.
changes your day.
It's a lot of it is psychological and mental, and you're taking that time to kind of, whether, like you said, you're in the sauna, you're either relaxing and, hopefully meditating. And, I watch Netflix sometimes, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. In the sauna?
In the sauna.
Oh, wow.
It's got a little screen in there. You can watch it.
You got the best sauna, huh? You got the screen, the red lights.
Yeah.
So do you think humans will live to 150? Like, what do you think the new kind of high level age is going to be with all this new stuff we have?
Yeah, I mean, I think with, as like I said, there's so many disruptives that are happening in medicine. I think with the addition of peptides, addition of all of these other supplements that are, we're just on the cusp of so many things. regenerative medicine, which is coming out. There's just so much stuff out there. I think that there will be people living to 125 easily, in the next, yeah.
Do you think people your age missed the boat and like, I'm just getting in the boat, or do you think?
Hope not. No, I think probably we're a little delayed in it. I think there's still a lot of stuff out there that we probably won't see for the next 10 years or more so.
But with the rate of growth of technology, things that used to take 5 years now take a day, right? With like quantum computing to be able to run millions of scenarios at once to figure things out. I mean, with the rate of acceleration of technology, things might be coming sooner than we think.
Definitely. And, we live in the great USA of A, so definitely, but the issue, not the issue, but what happens is we see technology and medications or peptides and pharmaceuticals more readily available outside of the U.S. than we do more so in the U.S. And so we have there's a lot of people going to places like Costa Rica to get stem cell transfusions and to get, peptides that are not necessarily accessible here in the U.S. And so I think if we those things and those technologies may be available, but it will be slower to implement in the U.S.
Yeah.
And so I think that's probably why we would see it a little bit slower. But I think in the global community, absolutely. I mean, we've got, there are things that are being developed right now that, and elsewhere around the world that are phenomenal, just all kinds of different.
So what's the, with anything, there's certain things that have a large effect and there's certain things that don't have such a large effect, right? It's like what are the low effort, high impact things that are available now, things that will have a large effect on people's aging? And then what's like the future of anti-aging medicine, of longevity? Like, what do you see happening in the next 10, 20 years that can really change the lifespan of humans?
Yeah, so I think, immediately what I think, in my personal opinion, what anybody can do to improve their health, absolutely, or longevity, or just is sleep.
Yeah.
And I know we talk about this all the time, but if you're not sleeping and your body's not recovering, that's when our body heals itself. And if, I was younger, I was emergency room. I was an adrenaline junkie, and all I need is 4 hours of sleep. I'm fine.
Yeah.
And maybe when we were younger, we could recover so much better, but our body has to heal itself, and it can only do that when we're resting and sleeping. And so somebody wanted to implement something today is look at your sleep.
Yeah.
Look at your sleep cycles, look at where you're at. Are you truly getting the right sleep that you need? Are you recovering? Those types of things. I would say the other big thing would look at what you're ingesting. Mm-hmm. There's just, and this is, for me, this has been a transformation for me over the last 2 years, is really paying attention to what foods I'm purchasing and what foods I'm cooking and eating. And we have added so many preservatives and so many unnecessary products to our food that there are things that are hurting us.
Yeah.
Cornstarch being one, just all the corn byproducts, corn syrups, all the MSG, all the coloring, things that are natural flavoring, those types of things. I encourage people to really look at that.
On the topic of food, if you start searching, you start finding really conflicting information, right? People say you should be a vegan. People say you should be a raw vegan. Other people say you should be a carnivore. And there's studies to prove that all these things are valid. My takeaway on it is, if you're a vegan or you're a carnivore, what do you have in common? You're cutting out processed foods.
Right.
You're cutting out the artificial stuff, the vegetable oils, the seed oils, the natural flavors. You're cutting that out. So I think a lesson is really get rid of processed foods, just in general.
At processed foods and refined any type of sugars, try to eliminate those. And it's hard. We've been exposed to them our entire life. I go back to, when I was thinking about this podcast, when my son was born, when you have a child that's born, everything you don't want to expose them to anything.
Right.
So, you go to the grocery or department store and you buy like the non-toxic, non-scent laundry detergent, right? Because you don't want them exposed. And when you start introducing food, it's like, okay, we're going to cook it ourselves. It's not going to be processed, or it's going to be organic. And I think we just need to revert to the simplicity of food, and not be so dependent upon everything that is processed. And I agree with you 100%. Food is just it just creates such a impact on what we're putting in our bodies. And it goes back to like the laundry detergent, for example. I had the privilege of going to the Biohacking conference in Orlando this past year, and the president and CEO for ECOS, they make a lot of the products were there. And she said, stop and think about it. She goes, you buy all, and we won't name any names, but you stop and you buy all of these laundry detergents. It smells so good. And they smell amazing. And then you add another scoop of this in your washing machine to even boost it, the boosters. And your clothes smell absolutely amazing.
Right.
She said, look and see what is in those products. And she goes, and those products are touching you 24 hours a day.
Oh, yeah.
You're wearing them, you're sleeping on them with your sheets. And so, that was a real eye opener for me. I mean, I immediately went out and threw all of my laundry detergent and bought, I bought ECOS, but anyway, there's plenty of them out there. And so just looking at those types, it's not just what you put, but what you're being exposed to every single day. So, to recap, I would say definitely sleep, what you're eating, and just from an environmental perspective, what are you being exposed to every single day? Whether that's the air that you breathe in, whether that's pollutants in the air, just be more conscious of what you're being exposed to.
So I want to circle back to the pollutants in a moment, but I would like to talk about sleep for a second.
Okay.
So I use the Whoop.
I do too.
You use the Whoop too?
I do. Yeah.
Which oftentimes I'll wake up and be really disappointed. I'm like, oh, I got great sleep, and then my recovery scores.
It's like, oh, but I felt really good. How is that true? Yeah.
It bases your recovery mainly on your heart rate variability,
right,
and then your resting heart rate and your respiratory rate and your sleep percentage. What are your heart rate variability? Do you know much about that?
I know a little bit about it. So I know it varies from person to person.
Yes,
absolutely. And so my baseline is completely different than probably your baseline.
Well, what is your baseline?
I'm in the 30s.
Okay.
Yeah. So
and it doesn't mean that that's good or bad.
It doesn't.
Right?
It's just my particular baseline. But what I like about it is that when I'm off of that baseline, I can see and I know exactly. So if I woke up this morning and my HRV is off, I know what caused it. I look at my sleep cycle and I feel that, I slept 6 hours, but I was all in light sleep. I didn't get into that deep sleep. And so that's what's going to help me recover. And so, you look back. And so some of the things that I've done to help change that is I try to make my room colder because cold temperatures help me sleep better. And so those are just things that I try individually that people can do on their own. Light, obviously, how much light you have in the room will affect your sleep. How many times did I get up and go to the restroom? That may be a problem when you're young, but when you get a little older, you do get up once or twice. And that's a disruption in your sleep, and your body's kind of reset through that cycle. So definitely, I think it's important. I look at it as data, but I also look at everything else that's occurring. But for me, once you're, getting in tune with your body and what your body's doing, what caused it. Did I have a drink last night? Drink,
huge effects on your HRV.
And
what the cool thing is, once you start measuring it, you start to notice patterns.
Right.
So I use a herbal supplement called Kratom sometimes for energy instead of coffee. Right. It just gives me a euphoric feeling, and it gives me some clarity and some energy. And I've been using it for a few years now, and my HRV is way lower when I take Kratom. So a few weeks ago, I took a week off of taking any, and my HRV, my baseline was in like the 50s for the longest time. And then it was up in the mid to high 80s, which is a huge jump in HRV, almost double.
Yeah.
I mean, same thing. Even if I have one glass of wine, HRV is definitely down 20% that night. 2 glasses or more, it's down a lot more. If I eat late, my HRV is also down. If I eat sugar, if I eat a lot of rice or flours, HRV goes down that night. So I start to notice the patterns, and I think it's really important to measure those things so you can start to correlate your behaviors with the outcomes, because sleep is extremely important.
Absolutely.
Have you tried the 8 Sleep the mattress topper that cools
I haven't.
mattress?
I have a lot of friends that do it, and they swear by it. They swear by it. You know, there's pods and there's different types of things that you can purchase.
Yeah, I've tried a bunch of them. I think the 8 Sleep is the
Age Sleep.
8, like the number 8.
Oh, 8. It's 8
Yeah,
Sleep. Oh,
it's
okay.
the,
8
the
Sleep.
cream of the crop bed topper.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think investing in a good sleeping setup is probably
absolutely.
one of the most important things you can invest in.
Everything from pillows to sheets, you know, it definitely all helps.
I don't know if you know about Drake's bed. Drake's got a $500,000 bed.
No, I don't.
I'm
not surprised, but you know.
There's got to be a level in which the more you spend, you get diminishing returns on that investment.
Exactly.
I wonder if he has a better bed than me. I'd imagine so. Okay, so sleep, putting together a good nightly routine. What other tips do you have for getting good restorative sleep?
Definitely, you know, so for me, I can't wind down. I can't, you know, at 9 o'clock, I'm not wind down. At 9 o'clock, I'm still going. Yep. And things are still, you know, I'm probably just finished working out or.
Well, you should have another baby. That'll change your
That's right.
routine.
That'll change your routine. So I think for definitely the things that we covered, making sure that you're not eating late at night. Alcohol is definitely going to affect it. I do, for instance, last night, I knew because I had just done sauna, I did a little bit. I like to lay on the floor, just hard code floor. I have concrete floors, so concrete floor. And I just lay, and sometimes I'll roll and stretch a little bit.
Yep.
I'll play some meditation music. It kind of just helps me just relax.
Yep.
And I think that's different for everybody. So what are those things? Now, honestly, I used to watch television all the time. And then I watched television until I fell asleep. And you wake up, it's like, okay, I need to go to bed. And so I've kind of cut a lot of that out.
Yeah.
I'm also a big looking at my phone before I go to bed. I'm trying to cut that out as well. So I used to do it every night. Now it's like, okay, you don't need to be looking at your phone, going down the TikTok rabbit hole. And, you know, all of a sudden you're looking at hooves being removed off of cows. Stuff is like,
what am I
how
doing?
did I get here?
Why am I spending my energy doing this right now?
Exactly. So I think those are a couple of the things that I, from a routine perspective, don't eat late, try to do some sort of relaxation. And I do drink some water before I go to bed. Probably doesn't help why I have to, you know, get up to the restroom, but I feel like it's hydrating me a little bit. I do take some of my supplements I do take at night, but I try to take those at least 2 hours before I go to bed. Yep. And that's helped me a little bit. Yeah.
So it's like there's things that you can look at from a physical perspective, and then there's things that you can look at, you know, from I guess a more spiritual perspective. Really, it's coherence, right? Brain, heart coherence. If you can get yourself into a coherent state, you can get much more relaxed at night. So like when you're watching a screen until you fall asleep, and your mind is watching someone shave a hoof off a cow, you get all these scattered brain patterns. And then you flip to another video, and maybe it's something about World War III that's going on. Maybe then you watch something that's, you know, here's a car that you really want. Now your brain's thinking about things you want. Now you have a bunch of incoherence. And then to get into that settled state, it takes you time to get into a deeper sleep.
Absolutely.
So I think just winding down in general is
winding down.
Good rule of thumb.
Absolutely. I'm a spiritual person, grew up Catholic. So part of my routine obviously is prayer and reflection before I go to bed. That helps me a little bit. You know, that's kind of like the message to my brain. Okay, it's time to shut it down. Let's go. And so, I mean, all of those things. And like you said, it's individualized for each person. Is find those things that help you wind down. But without a doubt, all the interactions are not going to help you at all.
I want to do like a 1 week phone cleanse soon, where I just don't use my phone for a week and see what happens to my sleep numbers and all the other data. But I want to circle back to the, you know, chemicals, the toxins. I actually wanted to ask you about like EMFs, 5G, you know, frequencies. You know, you talk about toxins in your food, in your water, in your laundry detergent, but what about the frequencies and the waves that are going on around us?
So it's interesting. One of the top 4 topics at the Biohacking conference this past year was on EMF.
Really?
Yes, it was. It was. They had some breakout sessions just specifically talking about that. And it was. I mean, I think the message was it's affecting us more than what we think, and it's all around us. And so you do see some EMF blockers coming up. I got to witness the Sonovenic. I don't know if you're familiar with
I think I've seen that.
They're on Instagram and stuff. And, I got to get into like an EMF tent.
Oh yeah.
Where, you got in and it was just interesting. You just feel so much different.
Yeah.
Being in there. So I definitely think we're going to be seeing more of that. EMF, there's certainly lots of literature out there saying the negative effects of EMF.
Yeah.
And, what it's doing to our body, our minds and stuff. And so I think we will be seeing more of it.
Yeah.
I think
it's so new, right?
It's like, new. It's
it
definitely
takes time for us to start measuring and catching up to this stuff.
Right. But the Sonovenic, I'm probably going to purchase one. They are a couple of $1,000s.
Is that big cylindrical?
Yeah. It's like it glows. It's got crystals inside of it. And it's supposed to block most of the EMF 100 feet around it.
Got you.
And so we'll probably get a couple for the spa too. We have that IV room that we kind of let everybody chill.
Yeah.
But it definitely, I felt a difference when I was in the EMF free tent.
Yeah.
You feel it. Yeah.
So do you know anything about PEMF mats?
I did interesting at I did a therapy session on it. I didn't feel a difference, but I only did one session.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I don't know too much about them. Yeah.
So we have one in my house.
Okay.
My wife had a C-section, and apparently the PEMF mats help with healing.
Absolutely.
So I had my wife go on there for like 20 minutes, and she actually got sick, like got nauseous and ended up throwing up. And I don't know, how the PEMF mat would make you do that. Maybe it was expediting the healing process or eliminating toxins from her body, but I don't really know much about how that mat works. I'll lay on it and I assume it's doing something for me, but how would a PEMF mat help with healing or recovery? Do you know how that mechanism works?
Honestly, I don't know too much about it. Yeah.
Well, again, if someone says to try something, I try.
Try.
So do you know about the biocharger?
I remember, I think I sent you a message that I got, or maybe I sent it to our mutual friend, that I did sit around one.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I felt a difference immediately.
Yeah.
Because I did it in there. We sat around. I think it was about a 20 or 25 minute session. I can't remember. And I felt energized. So it was right in the middle of that post lunch slump that you got.
Yeah.
And so they let you out, in the conference, and I went in and sat in it with like a group of. They had like 3 of them lined up. The group of 20 something. And the rest of the day I was.
Did you hold a light bulb next to it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was.
I have one.
Yeah, I know.
So
you should have put it in here.
maybe we'll get another one. The biocharger, for people that don't know what it is, it's a really interesting device. It's like, how would you describe it? It looks like a Tesla coil.
It does,
right?
Yeah.
And it's
something futuristic, Yeah,
it's like this big machine. It's got a Tesla coil. It has light bulbs, like long light bulbs all around it that have different gases in the light bulb. So when it gets filled with electricity, the gases glow different colors. And then the base emits PEMF. And if you don't put the little rubber thing on the top, it shoots electricity out the top like a lightning bolt. Did you see that?
They demoed it. Yeah.
And of course I have to touch it, right? And I burned my finger one time. But it's really interesting because the best way I can describe it, and I'm sure that it can be described better, is that everything in the world has a resonance frequency. Absolutely. Right? Like you've seen an opera singer sing at a glass and it shatters the glass. It's because you've seen that before? Right?
Yeah,
they make a high pitched note, the glass vibrates, and then it shatters. It's because they can match their voice to the resonance frequency of the glass, right, and it makes it vibrate, and then it breaks. So the idea with the biocharger is that everything has a resonance frequency. So if you have a virus or a parasite or something that you want to change in your body, they have 1,100 different recipes that you could turn on, and it can match. Before I bought mine, this was actually one of the selling points. They were showing me that there was a woman who had tinnitus in her ear, which is a constant ringing in your ear. And she went to the doctors and they couldn't get rid of it, and they were about to do surgery on her. And then they actually did the surgery, didn't fix the tinnitus. Then she went to see someone who had a biocharger, and they said, try this recipe. She tried it. She felt something going on, went to sleep that night, and then she felt something going on in her ear. woke up in the morning and there was a parasite on her pillow.
Oh, wow.
The biocharger killed and forced out a parasite from her ear and fixed the ear problem.
Wow.
So again, there's 1,100 different recipes. You can do tons of different things with it, but it's one of those things. It's like, I don't really know if it's working for me. I do a biological age test to see where I'm at on the spectrum. But I'm doing all these different things, the NAD, the hot cold therapy, the PMF mat, the biocharger, running, going on walks, spiritual practices. Overall, my biological age is really good. It came back as 19 and I'm 33.
Awesome. That's awesome.
But I don't know which things are the main drivers.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on how to figure out the main drivers, or like based on the things I do, what do you think would be the most impactful?
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you wanted to play around a little bit with it or test yourself, is maybe eliminate, like you did, eliminate some of those things temporarily for a week or so and see how you feel.
Yeah.
Those definitely will help. But I mean, I think definitely you're eating clean, probably you're getting sleep. All of those things are going to help with your biological age, and definitely all of those things are helping to contribute to that. Yeah.
So as an entrepreneur, what are the things that you do that you think help you thrive in business? Like, what are the things that you do that make you feel good and they help you thrive in business? Whether it's habits or routines or supplementation, what do you think helps you be successful as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So, the crazy part, Jared, is I was not an entrepreneur up until about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
I was a corporate person. And so I worked for a large medical corporation. I was an executive for them. Started, my career young as a ER emergency room nurse, worked my way up. I always knew that I wanted to be in medicine and to help people and to, that was just kind of my nature, if you will. And so for me, that was easy to get into. And then I started, being exposed to the administrative stuff, enjoyed it, liked it, did a corporate job, was a fairly young executive. I was very blessed, given lots of opportunities. Worked hard, but for me, I think it was really discipline at a very early age. And what is discipline? Such a general terminology. So for me, the discipline is I had, and I know everybody's not built this way, but I had a vision of where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And so that everything that I did worked toward that vision. And because I am spiritually driven. A lot of mine, if I made a decision on what I was going to do next, there was prayer and reflection on it. And for me, that's very, very important. Every step that I made, there was a time to, sit back, let's think about it, let's pray, reflect. And for me, it came to me, the message or the signal or whatever you want to call it, it came to me. And then those things became easy.
Yeah.
And then, if I've met resistance, so it's a red flag. That's, the world.
You felt resistance?
Yeah. So something's trying to tell you something, pay attention to it. And so, obviously we all go down a wrong path there occasionally and do stuff, but, I learned at an early age to pay attention to those things.
Yeah.
And that helped me. When I left the corporate world, I took a semi-sabbatical. I didn't work for about 12, 14 months. I was very fortunate that I was able to travel a little bit, did some traveling, reconnected with family members, prayers. I love going to old churches all over the world. And so, cathedrals and just kind of being in awe.
Did you go to the one in Barcelona? The famous one?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was amazing.
That's the name of it.
Yeah, Notre Dame before it burned, I was fortunate. And so all of those things, my son traveled with me when he could. So that was, just a gift that I was able to give him as well. And we did a lot of that together. We were in France on a train one time and it's like, and we're like we're immersed, full immersion. My French was not very good at the time. And I literally, I had that feeling of fear, like, okay, are we on the right damn train?
Yeah, I've been there before.
Yeah. And so, for me, it was just reconnecting. And when I had the opportunity and there were some business opportunities, again, the prayer and reflection helped me. But I brought all of those different disciplines with me. So I think we have to have a vision. You just can't go into something and say, I want to do a coffee shop today.
Right.
Okay. What does that look like? Okay.
Yeah.
What is the strategy behind that? And why? Why do you want to do that? Do you have a passion for that? Is it to make money? What is? And so obviously if you have a passion for something, you're going to be more focused on it. Your heart's going to be in it, basically.
Yeah.
And so for me, when, I have a couple of businesses, I own a home health agency, was fortunate that we purchased, have a business partner. We purchased the agency from a family that had been in existence for 25 plus years. So it's had some longevity, had some history, very well known. There were some issues that we had to address. And so we knew taking it on that there was going to be a lot of discipline within that company. We knew that there were going to have to be some things that we looked at, and there were some tough decisions related to personnel, cutbacks, those types of things. So it was really sitting back, the financial stuff aside, because, hopefully if you're doing a startup, you've got some of that knowledge behind you. But it was really about, do we have the right people around you? You know, because obviously I didn't know the industry. Yeah, I knew healthcare, but I didn't know non-acute healthcare. I knew acute healthcare. That's my world, or was at the time. And so it was like understanding who was around me, who were the people that I could rely on, that I trusted in order to, run this multi-million-dollar company.
And were those existing people in the company, or did you bring in other people?
There were some, and we built relationships with them, and I had to get to know them, and they had to understand my expectations from them as well. So I would say that, which brings me to the next one, is making sure that the people that work with you, and I remember I said not for you, but with you, what your expectations are and vision for the company. Because if you're the only one that has that vision and that expectation, then it's going to be you driving that every single day. There's not going to be buy-in. Yeah. And so all of those things, again, the financial piece of it, we did a lot of workflow process. It's like, why are we doing this? We have, what does this make sense? We're doing 20 steps and we can do it in 4. Right. So let's fix that. There's a lot of looking at a lot of inefficiencies, those types of things.
Which is good, right?
Absolutely.
It's because when you buy a business that has inefficiencies, you're buying an opportunity to make the business better.
Absolutely, yeah. And, this particular business had a lot of close ties. It was where my parents' hometown was from. And so a lot of the people we knew, I knew, and some of them were family. Some of them were friends of family. And so it wasn't just about buying it to make money. It was about buying it to continue the legacy and continue to provide the care. Right. And then the opportunity came for a med spa, which I knew absolutely nothing about. Yeah. I mean, I was just, I had some sisters that were working in the industry and said, okay, let's try it. It was an opportunity to create something for my family to help, to help their employment. And so we started it, and I brought the same approaches. It was the discipline. It was hiring the right people, sharing the vision with them and where we're headed, and making sure they understood, and then setting those expectations of what I expect from you, from an organization, everything from quality to customer service to all of those different things that play such a huge, vital part. I don't micromanage. I let people, each of us has a particular skill. And I learned very quickly that, my skill is looking at the bigger picture, strategy. My skill is looking at numbers, but sometimes you need cheerleaders in the group, but the cheerleaders are not your people that understand numbers. They don't want anything to do with numbers. They're the people that you launch a product, you give it to them and let them go talk about it and sell it. Then you have the data people. Yep. You tell them to go in front of and give a presentation and talk about. They're going to freeze. They're going to leave you. They just want to look at data. They want to look at information. And then you have your people that have a little bit of mix of everything. And so making sure that you have and identify the people that you have on your team and understanding what their skill set is. Because if you try to give them a skill set that they're not comfortable with, they will fail or they will leave you. Yeah. And then they'll become unhappy. And so, understanding, hey, so-and-so is great at selling. They're good at marketing. Let's give them that role. Yeah. And so I think those are all important things that we brought over. Me personally, from a daily perspective, I keep my eye on the business every single day. Yep. I'm looking at it every day.
What are you looking at when you say you're looking at the business every single day?
So I'm definitely looking at The financials, I mean, we have to look at the finances. We're looking at, who did we see today? What are the types of treatments that we perform today? Making sure that we're following up with the clients to making sure that they were satisfied. Looking at documentation from a clinical perspective.
Are there certain things that you look at every day that you'll immediately know if there's a red flag? Like, are there certain data points? Like, I have something I look at every day, and I'll be able to identify if there's a problem in like 2 minutes through the whole organization.
Yeah, definitely the finance things.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to see, okay, why were we slow today? What happened? Looking at the rest of the schedule for the week. What do we've got going on? I mean, I can tell you, what are our top selling, what are our top procedures? Where are we at? Run inventory reports. You can kind of tell what's going on. Those types of things that I look at probably on a daily basis.
Yeah. I think that's really important. I want to talk about reflection for a minute, because I think that's a really important thing that, and a lot of things that I talk about here are geared towards new entrepreneurs, people that are trying to get something started, that they can learn from people like yourself and other achievers that have done things to be able to derive their own meaning out of it and take action. And I think reflection is something that's extremely important and oftentimes overlooked. Most people think you need to have a big vision and you need to be really smart and you need to work really hard. But without reflection, without being able to feel your intuition, which guides you down the right path, you could be running 100 miles an hour down the wrong path. And then you got to go back 100 miles an hour to get back on the right path. So I think reflection is something that's often overlooked. And we live in a society now where there's so many things that pull your attention, your phone being the main thing with all the things that you use on it, that it sucks your energy away from being able to keep it to yourself and reflect on things. So, for me, I like to go on a walk in the morning. And I'm not deliberately going on a walk to think about, how's everything going. I'm actually letting go completely and being present, and then letting my intuition guide me down the thing I want to reflect on. Right. It's like oftentimes we have so many things going on. We may have this feeling of, I call it ambient anxiety. It's just like a little buzzing. It's not like you're super anxious or stressed, but you feel a little bit uncomfortable. You don't really know where it's coming from. But if you take the time to let go and reflect, the problem will bubble to the surface. It might be like, oh, I just need to send this email to this guy, or oh, this is the guy that's causing me stress. I need to let them go, or whatever it may be.
Right.
When you think about reflection, do you set aside deliberate time for reflection? Is this something you're doing throughout the day? Tell me about your reflection techniques, I guess you could say.
Yeah, so my reflection usually happens at night before I go to bed.
Okay.
It's kind of the time that I dedicate daily to kind of just look back and say, what's going on? What happened during the day? What are some of the things, like you said, what are the things that are heavy on my mind, and how am I going to address it? But for me, it's daily in the evenings.
Yeah.
And I do some of it when I run. You do have a kind of a clarity, and then you're just, some of it comes when I run. But my daily set of time is definitely in the evening, right before I go to bed. Is kind of my time. But it's important. I agree 100%. It's important for you to kind of look at what's going on and what can I do about it, if anything, because there are some things you can't do about it. And just kind of, and I think it just kind of helps set the tone for me for the next day, for sure.
Yeah. I like to do something at night where I reflect on the day. So I'll look at my calendar, and we have different careers, right? Like I own Zenhard. We're a tech company. We're totally remote. You have your businesses, which you have locations. It's different businesses. But what I'll do is I'll sit down, I'll look at my calendar, I'll go through all the calls, all the meetings I have, and I'll write everything. Like I'll say, woke up at this time, went for a run, did this, got on this call, went to the office, had a meeting, and I'll try to recall everything that happened for the day. And as I'm recalling it, little things pop up, and I'll take note of those things, which clears my mind. And then I'll mark, I use a 4-colored pen. So I'll mark the behaviors that I'm proud of in green, whether it was going for a run or meditating or drinking water or whatever it is that I wanted to do, and I did. I'll mark them in green. And then behaviors that I felt were impulsive or something that I didn't want to do, because no one's perfect, right?
Right.
Whether that's I told myself I was only going to spend 20 minutes on social media today, and I spent an hour, right? I'll mark that in red. And then I'll give myself a rating on the day based on how many green things, how many red things. I'll give myself anywhere from an F to an A plus. I've never scored better than a B plus on a day. And it gives me so much clarity going to sleep. And then the next morning, I've already downloaded all the things from my head, out of my mind, and you go into the clear space. Yeah. But I don't think people really understand the importance of reflection.
No, I mean, it goes back to that self-awareness, self-awareness of, who am I, what am I doing, and what have I done this past day or my life, or it just kind of, so I agree. I think it gives us that ability to look back and say, and who's going to be more honest than ourselves?
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And if we're not, then we're kind of masking or doing things to kind of, not want to be honest with ourselves. But yeah. I agree.
So I also want to talk about discipline for a minute, because I think that that's a common priority or common value amongst successful entrepreneurs. People think of discipline, they think, you got to be like David Goggins, where you go run every day. Yeah. You got to be super regimented. Really, discipline is just keeping promises to yourself, right? There's kind of two parts of us. There's our minds and our true selves. And there's other models, maybe there's 3 or 4 parts of ourselves, but for the sake of this conversation, you have your mind or your ego, and you have your true self. Your true self is the part of you that knows exactly what your vision is. It's the part of you that says, I'm going to get up early tomorrow and go for a run. The part of you that says, I'm not going to drink this weekend. And then your mind comes in and tries to convince you to do all those things that bring you short-term pleasure. Your true self wants sustainable, long-term happiness and joy. Your mind wants short-term pleasure. It wants to eat the chocolate cake. It wants to drink the alcohol. It wants to go to the party. Discipline is really taking the promises that your true self sets and sticking to those things and winning battles with your mind. And the way I like to think about it is we have hundreds of these little battles every day.
Absolutely.
Micro battles. Should I open Instagram? Yes or no? And for me, having a framework, having a routine and habits allows me to be more disciplined with more ease, where I don't give myself the option, which is why I like 75 Hard a lot, right? It's like, you have to read 10 pages a day. You have to go on to do 2 workouts. There's no debate. Should I read before bed? Yeah, no. And you're spending energy on these battles, right? Which takes energy away from what you want to do. So discipline, I think, when you're keeping these promises to yourself, you're starting to feel more confident, right? You get to a point where you've been disciplined for so long. When you think about something you're going to do in the future, it's already done, as opposed to like, I don't know if I'm really going to do that thing because I haven't kept these other promises to myself. What are some of the things that you do to keep yourself disciplined?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of it depends on what time I get up. And so my discipline is, I have 2 sleep late days. I sleep late on Saturdays because we open a little bit later. Mm-hmm. So I get an extra 45 minutes. And then Sunday is my not sleep past 8:30 every morning. Of course, I get up. I mean, I get up early. So I say not 8:30, but it ends up being like I'm up at 7:45 or 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And so I tend that's my time to say, okay, you're going to sleep in and rest in a little bit more. And so for me, it is scheduled. I mean, there are things that every Sunday, I get up in the morning, I shower, I get up, I have a routine that I go get my car washed, grocery store. I do all of those things to get me ready for the rest of the week. So I'm already planning, do I want to meal prep this week or not meal prep?
It's not a decision. It's already decided.
Right. I know what I'm going to do. So a lot of those things are set of what I'm going to do. Obviously, like you said, there are battles that we go through every day. Life happens, and either we go out of town or certain things happen, and we have to make adjustments to those. I used to sleep late all the time. I'd stay up. I'll wake up later.
When you say used to, how long ago?
I'd say probably a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I'm consciously more aware of what time I'm going to bed and what time I need to wake up. And so now there's more discipline around.
Yeah.
What time am I going to bed? Because I know I have to wake up at this time.
And when do you think your discipline journey, or when do you think you started valuing discipline? At what part of your life? Was that something you became aware of?
I think at an early age,
Yeah.
but it probably was more consistent, probably the last 10 years.
And is it like for me and for a lot of people listening, it's like, oh, that guy's been consistently disciplined for this long. That's why he's successful. I struggle all the time. I mean, I have off weeks on weeks, off weeks on months, and it's always a battle trying to be better. Do you have a similar
absolutely.
experience?
So, I mean, I see, so for me, work discipline is very easy.
Yeah.
Like I know the things that I need to do from a business perspective and to be successful. That's easy.
Yeah.
The other discipline for my personal lifestyles and eating right and exercise, that's the struggle. I have more of a struggle with that.
Yeah.
Being consistent and disciplined on what I should be eating, not eating, being inconsistent and disciplined on my exercise regimen. Yeah. So those are the more difficult things for me. Yeah. But from a business perspective, all of those disciplines are easy for me. Like they're just so ingrained in me that, and so what I've been working toward now is my lifestyle management, my, what's from a health perspective, trying to be more disciplined on those things. And if I plan it and I know what I have to do, and I think now I have evidence of like when I go to bed early or I feel better. So, back when you're young, it's like, I'll be disciplined, but I'll feel okay. But now I have evidence of if I don't go to bed early, what's going to happen? Yeah. I'll feel like, like crap all day long.
And discipline, it compounds on itself.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's like you become a better version of yourself every time you stick to a promise, and then you keep getting better. I think it's important to note that everyone falls off, right?
Absolutely.
Like I told myself on Sunday, I made a list of rules for myself for the week. Get up no later than 6 a.m., run at least 10 miles for the whole week, so 2 miles a day, at least 8 minutes of a cold plunge total through the week, 50 minutes of meditation, no social media. And to be honest, I broke one of my rules today. I got up at 7, even though I said I was going to get up at 6. Granted, I was up late last night. I could justify it all I want. Bottom line, I didn't keep the promise to myself. What's more important than keeping promises to yourself is rebounding back afterwards,
Absolutely.
Right? Because it's really easy for me to be like, well, I already broke one rule for the week. I might as well break the rest and start again next week. But the way I look at it is when you're keeping promises to yourself, you're growing. When you fall off, you plummet. And the longer it takes you to rebound back up, the lower you start. So like, if I get right back on track tomorrow morning and keep all the rest of my promises, I may have only missed a tiny bit of growth.
Right.
But if I let the whole rest of the week slip by because I broke one promise to myself, I'm starting back from ground zero. I made no progress this week. I think that's a really important thing to understand is how fast can you jump back on the horse after you fall off?
Yeah, no, I agree. And so for instance, like with my calorie burns and my strain on the Whoop, I have set what disciplined on. I'm going to burn X amount of calories per day, and I'm going to try to get X amount of sleep per day. And if I miss that, I'm looking at it. I have data to help support me with that decision. It's like, okay, what do I need to do the week's almost over. I've got 3 days left. You need to burn X amount of calories to catch up to that. Like you said, to kind of help even that out and be more consistent. So yeah, we do every single we're not perfect. There's going to be, life happens,
It's important that people recognize that no one's perfect, even the people they look up to. I mean, but if you look at the greatest people in the world, the Kobe Bryants of the world, the Tiger Woodses of the world, I mean, those are people that have kept an extremely high level of discipline for an extremely long period of time. And people often associate discipline with pain. They associate it with discomfort. And yes, there is pain and discomfort that comes with it. But the other side of pain and discomfort is joy. A lot of people exchange joy for pleasure. They do the short-term things now to feel the short-term pleasure, thinking, oh, you only live once, right? Why wouldn't I eat the chocolate cake? I only live once. Go ahead. But you're not going to get to where you want to go if you have a separation from what you're doing and what you think you should be doing. It's going to cause conflict. So I think it's important. I'm curious what your thoughts are, for, let's just say Gen Z, people in their late teens, maybe up to, mid 20s or something. We live in a society now where there's so many things stealing your attention. I think it might be more challenging to build discipline, right? I mean, it's so easy to get artificial dopamine hits on command. you might be bored. All right, well, instead of doing that thing that I know I should do, I'm just going to pop open YouTube for a few minutes and scroll. Do you think it's harder for society now to build levels of discipline than it was for, let's say, when you were younger getting started?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And it's, it's a conversation I have with my son sometimes in talking about accountability, responsibility, and promises not only that you make to yourself, but to others. So for instance, being on time, it's huge. I tell people it's like, if you commit to being there at 1 p.m., be there at 12:45.
Right.
It's disrespectful to the other person. But I think you're absolutely right. We've given our children absolutely everything that they've ever wanted, and the distractions that they have. I mean, there's just so many distractions that they have. Everything from social media to wearable devices, everything telling them where they should be and what they should look at and not look at. Absolutely. And I think my recommendation for them is, I think there's a lot of confusion, and this is just a lot of confusion. I think people they haven't really found what they love doing.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that would be my advice to them, is find what makes you happy and what you love doing. It could be anything. It could be doing fitness. I mean, I tell my son this all the time. It's like, you're going to, you love psychology. That's what you want to be. But you also, I mean, we have conversations and text messages all the time. It's like, Dad, did you know that we're talking about seed oils and oxidation. And I mean, we're sending each other text messages back on this. He's sending me a podcast, and it's like, dude, you love this. Like, this is what you like doing.
Right.
Build your life and your career around this.
But there's a kind of a veil over reality with the younger generation, people my age, people younger than me, because they're looking at other people's lives so often, right? When you were growing up, you couldn't go look at all your friends, everything they're doing, their stories on Instagram. So oftentimes I think we confuse what we love with what we think we would love if we were someone else.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how do you figure out what it is you love when you have all these things that are telling you, oh, my life would be better if I was traveling like this guy, if I had the car that this guy had, or maybe, how do you figure out what it is that you love when there's so much around you that could be giving you a facade?
I think one of the things that you could do is have a conversation with someone. And so for instance, I'm a huge proponent of mentors and coaching.
Yeah.
I did a lot of coaching and mentoring as an executive and still do some of that now. I think my advice to someone is find someone that you can have a conversation with, someone that you give permission to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You have to give them permission to be honest.
Yeah.
And you can't be offended when that person is honest with you.
Right.
And so if you have that relationship with someone, it doesn't even have to be a friend. It could be a complete stranger that you can go out and say, hey, I need somebody, maybe somebody that you admire in the industry that you like, or whatever it is that you like. And you go to them and have a conversation and say, I'd like for you to help coach me or mentor me or have a conversation with me.
Yeah.
You have to give them permission to be honest with you.
Yeah, 100%.
Because if they're not and they're holding back, then you're never going to really find honest feedback, because you'll get offended or you won't call them to go for the next session or whatever it might be. And I will tell you, there are a lot of people out there, like myself, that want to provide coaching and mentoring just because we get rewards out of it. I mean, I did it throughout my career. I'm still doing it now. And it brings us joy to help build that future generation.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think one of the key things for our younger generation is find someone that, something that you want to do, and maybe talk to somebody, call them, email them, text them, connect through social media and say, hey, I'm interested. Would you have a conversation with me? Yeah. But then give them permission to be honest and provide feedback. And then you be honest in providing who you are and what you want to do to them. And that relationship will grow, and it'll help bring maybe some more insight to them.
And it only takes one thing, right? It's like, for almost all of my life, I never had a mentor. Because it was hard for me, and maybe it was the way I was justifying it. It was like, I want a lot out of life. And most of the people I knew weren't where I wanted to be in life. So I was like, well, why would I want them to be my mentor if they haven't done what I want to do? Recently, now I have 3 coaches that are on payroll that I talk to every week. One is a coach that came through I do a plant medicine journey every quarter, and there's a coach that basically looks through your transcript and helps you implement things in life. I have another spiritual coach I just took on that allows me to better understand what's going on inside of me and kind of let go and get realigned. And then I have another mentor who's like a very successful entrepreneur. And I speak to them each week, maybe for like 10, 15 minutes. And to be honest, as your career grows, the return on investment gets higher. So even if you're paying a lot of money, once you're at a certain level, it's such an irrelevant amount of money that if one good thing comes out of it, it's worth 1,000 times more than what you're paying. So like for me, I had a conversation 2 weeks ago. I can't get into too much details about the circumstance, but bottom line, I realized that I had been subconsciously waiting for something to happen for the last 2 months. And I don't like waiting. Like if there's a line or if the wait on hold, like I really dislike waiting. And it took a conversation with one of my mentors to realize that my subconscious has been in the state of waiting for 2 months. And I've been wondering, well, why do I have this sense of anxiety or overwhelm or cloudiness? And that one conversation I had was like, duh, it's right in front of my face. And it lifted the veil. And for me, no matter how much money I'm paying to that mentor, with the level of my business now, that one thing will give me humongous ROI. So it's worth, whether you're investing money or you're reaching out to people, it's worth having someone like that you could be honest with and they could give you honest feedback. I totally agree.
Yeah, and I think there are different levels of, there's counseling, definitely, therapy that's done for different reasons. There are career coaching and mentoring. Personal trainers are a form of coaching and mentoring as well. I think, specifically if you're looking for someone from a career path, like what do I want to do? Where do I want to go? I think if you reach out to 75% of the people that are in, let's just say it's healthcare. If you reach out to someone in healthcare, that's maybe 40 years old, that's been in the industry and say, hey, I'd like to have a conversation with you about what you do and how you got there. They will happily make time to do that.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
And so I definitely, it's just such an important aspect of, especially if someone's struggling with, I don't know what I want to do in life. I don't know where I want to be.
Yeah.
Have multiple conversations with different people in different industries.
Yeah.
And then, figure it out.
I love giving back to young entrepreneurs, people that are just getting started. I had someone who lived here in San Antonio for a year that I was mentoring. He was on one of the podcast episodes.
I saw that. Yeah.
And it was cool because he was 17. I think he's 18 now. And I looked at myself when I was that age and I thought, what if I had learned back then would have had the biggest effect on my life? And it was learning how to be okay being bored and being alone and sticking to habits and disciplines. It was get up every morning and go for a run. Live by yourself. Don't use social media. It's really uncomfortable to do that. But if you could learn to have a level of contentment and joy with nothing, you bring that energy into everything else you're doing. When you need something to make you feel okay, when you need external stimuli to get you back to a baseline and you don't have it, you're operating at a level of low energy. And my kind of philosophy on life holistically, and I'm curious what yours is that the way you feel creates the life around you. So if you feel a consistent separation from where you want to be in life, maybe you're always like, oh man, I'm so far away from my goals. I'm so far away from this. You feel a sense of separation or a sense of lack, and life's going to bring you more of that. But if you can feel totally joyful with nothing, you're going to manifest more joy. You're going to manifest more things in your life. That's kind of my high level philosophy on life. I'm curious. I know it's a broad question, but what is your philosophy on how to live?
Yeah. So for me, obviously a little bit older. So everything that I'm working toward now is to leaving a legacy. And, that legacy is not necessarily, a legacy for the world, but a legacy for my son and for my family. Mm-hmm. And so that has transitioned over time. It's like, I won't be here the next 50 years. I hope so. But, what is going to be my legacy? And it's not a financial legacy. Some of it will. My sons probably will listen, but
yeah.
But it's more about what the legacy can be. What has he learned from me? What have others learned from me? and what have I given back to society or my immediate community.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I look at it for me. So everything I do is I work toward that. You know, and
toward giving
back.
Yeah.
Giving back and just leaving that legacy with, you know, the people that are going to be here when I'm not. And hopefully they can do the same, you know, when they're not there. And so that's really what I look at. You know, obviously, definitely success. You know, I tend to look at things and go into things that I'm going to be successful at this.
Yeah.
But I have, like you said, I have the discipline to back me behind it. I know exactly what I'm going to do if I go down a path.
Yep.
You know, we're working on a pretty significant project right now that will just, you know, change things for us exponentially on the med spa side.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of hard work that's going to go. But
you have the confidence to do it.
Yeah, in my mind, I already know what needs to happen and what we're going to do.
Because confidence comes from discipline.
Right.
When
Absolutely.
you keep promises to yourself, your subconscious feels worthy. It's like, yeah, we're going to go get that done.
Yeah.
You break promises to yourself, your subconscious is like, yeah, who do we think we are? We're not going to get that done. We couldn't even keep this promise to ourselves.
And apply that to weight loss or it's the same thing.
It's all the same thing.
It's all the same thing. So if you miss, you know, I'm not going to exercise today, and then day 2 comes, what's another day? And then you begin to stray away from that discipline.
Yeah.
And then you end up,
then
a month later, it's like,
well, then a business opportunity comes up and your subconscious is like, you couldn't even work out last week. What makes you think you could achieve this big goal?
Yeah,
so it's like those micro decisions are so important and they're oftentimes overlooked. It's like people are like, yeah, I'm not going to work out because I need to, you know, go work on this project or whatever it is. But doing the workout that you said you're going to do is going to give you the confidence to be able to see the opportunities that when you operate at a certain level of confidence, opportunities make sense to you. But like, for example, let's say you're sticking to your disciplines, you're feeling really good, you're walking through the mall and you see a product and you're operating at a high level of energy and confidence, you could quickly piece, oh my God, I can do this thing with this product. Whereas if you didn't keep those promises to yourself, you're at a low level of confidence, that opportunity might not even come into your reality. It might just float right over your head.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other piece to that is that if it's, you know, we get people that come into the med spa all the time is let us add this new service to, you know, we'll buy this $200,000 piece of equipment and we can add this service. And within 90 seconds, because I am so disciplined, I know within 90 seconds of what they tell me, what the product is, what the treatment is, I know, no, that won't work for us.
Yeah. Or like, that will work for us.
Or what, exactly.
And you could make that decision to spend $200,000.
I'm intrigued. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Let's have some more conversations.
Yeah.
But yeah, so absolutely, because you already know in your mind, you've already processed it and you know what's going to happen or what needs to happen, I guess.
And I think the most successful and best leaders, they're not necessarily the people that make the best decisions. They're the people that make the fastest decisions. Right. So you can keep moving. You know, oftentimes you're like, well, I'm going to think about that. Okay, well, how many things can you think about before you feel overwhelmed and can't make any good decisions?
Yeah.
I'd rather move, fail, fix it, keep moving. Yeah. Another thing you mentioned, so like you want to give back. People hear the phrase and they think, okay, the more you give, the more you get. That's something that has been circulating through society for the longest time, right? Problem is, people are doing it the wrong way. They're giving so that they get.
They're expecting something back. Yeah.
But you'd be surprised that when you shift your intention to simply give, you actually do receive a lot more. When my first business imploded, I used to have a company called Electric Flurry. It was the world's largest foam party. And I did really well when I was 21. I lost all my money when I was 22. I moved back into my mom's apartment when I was 23. And I was in a really weird place because I had built all this success, but now I'm sleeping on my mom's couch. So I wasn't the person I thought I was. An opportunity came to me and it was a startup. They had just raised $10 million and they wanted to sponsor my shows, but I didn't have the shows going on anymore because my business failed. So my brain was immediately like, well, maybe I can use this company's money to throw more shows and make more money for me. And I was like, I just had this intuitive feeling of maybe don't be so selfish. Maybe just try to give to the company and don't do anything for yourself. And that's what I did. It was an experiment. I was at a low point in life. I'm just going to try to give them all I have. So I got on calls with them. I told them everything I think they should do. They really valued my opinion, so they flew me out. I spent 2 days with them explaining, here's exactly how I'd market the business. And lo and behold, a humongous opportunity came out of that. So when I shifted the mindset of trying to get as much as I could to simply trying to give without any hope or without any intention of trying to get back, a big opportunity opened for me. I think that's an important concept.
Absolutely.
For young people, for people that are lost or stuck. Try just go out to the coffee shop today and give someone a compliment. Go out to dinner, leave someone a big tip. And don't do it because you're hoping the universe gives you something back. Do it because you want to give. Absolutely. And what happens is when you do that, you start vibrating at a level of abundance. We have enough. We have more than enough. And you start to get that back. And I think the universe works in a funny way. Oftentimes it works in the opposite way that people think.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I think that also the universe also reminds you of when you're not giving back as well, or you're not staying true to yourself as well. And so I always give an example. I was an executive, and busy day, your schedules are usually packed all day long. You don't have any room for anything. And my assistant came in and she said, hey, there's a gentleman here that says he knows you and needs to talk to you. And of course, I don't see, I had a rule. I had no 1 day appointments. I don't see you on the same day. There's just no way. My schedule's already packed, right?
Right.
And so she's like, well, she says she knows you. She knows your family. And it's really, really important that he talk to you. I'm like, I said, where is he? He's like, he's in the lobby. Like, he's waiting for you. I'm like, I can't. So anyway, make a long story short, I ended up seeing him, and the gentleman was asking for money. And so I was like, okay, I don't know who he is. He knew my dad. He's a small town. And I said, you know what? This is all I have in cash. And so I just gave it to him. And so I called my dad afterwards today, and I said, hey, Dad, do you know so-and-so? Like, he came into my office and, and said this. And he goes, I don't know who that is. And I was like, oh, okay. He goes, don't worry about it. He goes, you gave it free will. It'll come back to you. Don't worry about it. Like, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter who it was. Yeah. And so for me, that, I always kind of go back to that. And, and it's also not about money. Gifting is your knowledge, it's your time, it's your, what you have. And so, I tend to talk, we just had a health and wellness fair this past Saturday, and there were some vendors that I didn't know. And I spent some time talking with them. And one of them was asking me, like, how'd you start up your business? And a lot of the questions and discussions that we're having today. And, he had just started his business in June, and he was like, this is what I've struggled with. And so I saw him yesterday, and I spent some time with him, about 45 minutes, and it was unexpected. Like, I was going to his place to look at his place and to buy some product and stuff. We spent 45 minutes, and afterwards he's like, wow, he goes, you've given me so much insight. Yeah. More than, he goes, I have so much to think about and just trying to work toward. So it's more than just about the money. It's about giving of your time and your knowledge.
We all have that to give, and what you get back is better than anything financially in that circumstance. You get a feeling that exceeds any other feeling. I have a quick story that happened recently to me. I was going to get my blood work done at LabCorp, and there was like 9 people in the lobby, and there was one person working behind the counter. And she was stressed and frantic. And I went in to get my blood work, and she's running around and she's taking my blood. And I'm like, how's your day going? Trying to cheer her up a little bit. She's like, man, I wish I had time to pick up my sweet tea from Sonic this morning. And I was like, immediately my brain's, judging, like, what are you doing drinking sweet tea in the morning? You know how much
sugar it has in it?
Yeah. And then I'm like, don't feel that way. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And I could tell she was having a bad day. Yeah. And so I left, and I'm like, I'm going to go get this woman a sweet tea from Sonic. It's $1. It's not about the money. It's right down the road. I have the time. I went and I picked up the sweet tea. I walked back through the building, went in there. She's doing all this stuff. She saw me walk in the door with the sweet tea, and she started crying. Yeah. And it was the amount of love that I felt in that moment for a stranger. Not like, oh my God, I love you, but like, it was just a human connection that small act changed her day and probably changed my day even more. It changed everything. And it wasn't about the money. It was a little bit of time. I could have done that 100 times over, but just giving gave me a change in energy that I took with me for the rest of my day. I went home. I was likely a better husband because I was in a better mood. I was likely more compassionate with my employees and my team because I was in a different energetic state. So just doing simple acts of kindness, you get back a feeling that's invaluable.
Absolutely.
And we all have the time.
Absolutely.
We all have something to give. Yeah. So when people are struggling and they can't figure out where to go, think about what you can give to others. And I think that's a real lesson that people can gain something from.
I agree. Yes, absolutely.
So wrapping up here,
okay.
I would like to hear about some of the kind of cutting edge. I know you went to this biohacking conference. You just threw a fair, right?
Yep.
At your location. I wanted to come. I could not make it. I had a golf tournament that I played horrible in. And then yesterday I shot the best round of my life. Anyway, that's how that goes.
It's golf.
Yeah. But tell me about some of the cutting edge, new stuff that's going on in the healthcare world or in the...
So I think it goes back to, I think we're going to see lots of changes in the regenerative medicine side. I mean, there's so much coming.
Stem cells,
exosomes are definitely the future. Right now there's companies in Costa Rica where you can go in and get stem cell, therapy. There's phenomenal results that we're seeing with regenerative and growing and healing. I think that obviously AI in the last year has just imploded.
Mm-hmm.
So AI will be an important aspect in every aspect of healthcare. And I tell people AI has always been there in healthcare, just never to this extent. If you had an EKG, the machine interpreted what it thought it was. That was a form of AI.
Yeah.
And so now it's just at a whole nother level. And like you said earlier, we're just processing, everything's being processed so fast. There's just so much information out there. So I think those are regenerative medicine for sure. I think we're going to see lots of changes in the peptide, AI. We're going to see a lot more work on supplementation. I think we're going to see a lot of things that are coming out. Unfortunately, the FDA is limiting a lot of those things, especially on the peptide side, and they're making it difficult for people to access. And I get, the unsafe thing, but there's a lot of stuff out there that can help us that we're being limited to not.
An example, I don't know if you know much about like raw dairy, raw milk.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, you might find research on both sides of it, but it's illegal to sell it in supermarkets. I have to go to a farm and pick it up, and there's all these tremendous health benefits, but the FDA, because there's a little bit of risk, blocks it out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just
I think we'll continue to see AI. So what I call the disruptors in healthcare will definitely be artificial intelligence. We've already seen it in telehealth. We've seen, since we've had COVID, we've seen lots of changes in telehealth. I mean, now we can talk to physicians all over the world that have, so I think access is another piece. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I want to talk to a neurologist, I can talk to that neurologist via over the phone or via Zoom.
Not just the one in your area.
Right.
There could be better ones all over the world.
Exactly. And we didn't have that opportunity. I mean, 2-3 years ago, we didn't have that type of access.
Literally. Yeah.
We didn't. I think 3D printing, we're going to see some things help in that side with organ transplants and just those times, prosthetics. I think we're going to see that. And just the amount of information that we have available at our fingertips is just ginormous. I think I tell people this all the time: have a conversation with your primary care doctor. If you're intrigued about supplements or any type of IV therapy or peptide therapy, and your physician blows you off, maybe think about getting another physician. So I think we're going to see an implosion in functional medicine.
Yeah.
Definitely. We work very closely with some functional medicine. We're seeing a lot of shift in traditional insurance payers. So people that to physicians who are no longer taking any type of insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally see a physician who, again, I've been in this industry over 25, 30 years. I've had lots of friends that have been my primary care doctors. I was introduced to a direct primary care. So a shout out to my doc, Dr. Wes Clements. He spent 55 minutes with me understanding my health and my wellness and where I needed to be.
Yeah.
And again, I've been in this industry for 25 plus years. I have friends that are very close friends that are physicians, orthopods. No one has ever spent that amount of time with me understanding what it is that I wanted and helping me identify what my wellness journey was.
Yeah.
And so that is the difference between, and it's not anything against our traditional primary care or any physician. It's just the world that we live in. We're so stuck with insurance and having to, it's about getting patients in and out because I've only got 15 minutes with them because I've got to see that next patient, or they become unviable businesses. So I think we will begin to see more of those types of businesses. Physicians transition from taking traditional payer sources such as Medicare, Medicaid, any of the HMOs, traditional insurance, to more direct primary care where people are paying out of pocket a membership fee to have access.
That's what we do.
Yeah, we do too. And I have access to my physician whenever I need it. I can see him for whatever, either virtually or in person. And it makes a world of difference. And I think that's when I started. Remember, you said, what are the things that have changed? And within that past year, making the shift over to them, and just somebody truly looking not just as what's going on with you from an illness perspective, but from a wellness perspective, and has the time to have that conversation with you. And there were things that I bring to my physician. He's like, I haven't heard of that, but I'm going to research it and let's talk about it.
That's the key.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, and sometimes I'll send him information and say, this is what I know. And so we'll talk about it and have a conversation and say, okay, let's try it or not try it. And so I think we're going to see a lot more of that as healthcare changes.
I think it's because people are waking up to the fact that there are oftentimes symptoms that are treated and not root causes. And, the demand for these types of healthcare services are growing because of the information that we're getting. And also our whole healthcare system has been built over the last, however long, let's say 100 years. Doctors go through the same system that they used to through med school. They learn the same things, but there's all these new cutting edge things coming out every day. If you're a doctor you're in your 50s, 60s, unless you're spending a lot of time researching, you're not going to know about a lot of these new things. And then you got, big pharma lobbying with the government to make things go a certain way that it's just based on money. It's like I see a longevity doctor. They're called Live Health. It's a telemedicine service. I do quarterly blood work, quarterly gut microbiome checks. And we were trying to fix my gut. We did a protocol, worked a little bit. They're like, all right, we're going to take it up to another level. I needed a certain antibiotic. And the antibiotic was like $1,600 for 10 pills. And they didn't have it at CVS. They didn't have it at Walgreens. It was on back order. And it's like, this thing would specifically fix the problem I have. But because it's not in the system, because it's not in this thing that we've been building up for so long, it's inaccessible and it's super expensive. And I got it and it fixed my problem. And so we have a lot to break and rebuild. And it's tough because I believe most doctors have great intentions. They want to help people.
Absolutely.
But there's also that, sitting on a pedestal dynamic where you go to a doctor and they're the doctor and you're just the patient. So oftentimes they don't want to hear your opinion.
And so I think that's one of the major things, the part of the disruptives that we're going to see, it's the physician held the knowledge,
Right.
And now they no longer hold, they hold the knowledge obviously of medicine, but there's so much knowledge out there that now patients are coming and they have knowledge too as well. And so that's one of the shifts that we're going to continue to see is patients are coming in and saying, hey, this is what's going on with me. And, let's have a discussion about it. We're moving from, healthcare to wellness and lifestyle management. We're going from cookie cutter medicine to personalized care.
Yeah.
All of those things are going to be kind of what's disruptive in healthcare. And if people don't, or, practitioners don't make that shift, I think they're going to stay behind.
Yeah.
Now, whether that shift's going to happen in the next 2 years, 5 years, it's coming. And embracing it and working toward that is going to be key for all of us. And I think that's why you see a lot of practices popping up, like you said, longevity physicians, wellness clinics, those types of things. People are eager and want that type of healthcare.
Yeah.
It's hard to get in if you have traditional traditional healthcare. My son is supposed to see an ear, nose, and throat doctor. It was a 45-day wait, and then they called 2 weeks before and canceled the visit and pushed him out another 30 days. And I said, no, we're doing something. No, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And so, I had to, unfortunately, because I was well connected in the medical, I had to make some calls and texts that I didn't want to, I didn't want to take advantage of those relationships with those physicians, but I had to.
You got to take care of yourself.
But I then also think about the people that don't have access to that.
Right.
It's sad.
It's frustrating.
It's frustrating. It's sad. And I was fortunate that I had those relationships with certain physicians. And so literally was able to get him in the next day.
Yeah.
And so it's just unfortunate. And so we're going to see a lot of that just kind of just go away. And they're good disruptors.
Yeah,
they're
100%.
good disruptors. And I think the other piece that we're going to see as we, disrupt is data. I mean, we have so much biofeedback available at our hands for everything from the whoops to sensors to glucose monitoring. It's all there. And it's able to tell us what's going on in our body so that we can interpret that data with our physicians or healthcare providers to say, hey, this is what's going on.
Yeah. And we'll be able to run completely digital studies, right? As opposed to with quantum computing, for example, you could run a billion different scenarios in 1 second and pull answers out that would have taken 20 years, 10, 20 years ago. Yeah, I agree. I think, people are starting to wake up to the fact that you need personalized healthcare. We're not all the same. If we have a symptom, there's likely a root cause causing that symptom. So just treating that symptom, it might make you feel better, but now you're on this thing for the rest of your life or for a long time. And I think, we're extremely blessed and lucky to have Western medicine for emergencies, for big issues, for illnesses. But I totally agree. And I'm part of I'm experiencing this new change in healthcare, the telemedicine, holistic care, understanding my actual blood levels and doing supplementation to fix those things, my gut. So I totally agree. But anyway, very interesting conversation. Yeah. I like how we were able to kind of navigate all the different cool areas. My favorite part is always the mindset, the entrepreneurial part. And I also love health and biohacking. So this was a very enjoyable conversation for me. Anything else that you think is worth noting or, anything else that, if people are, trying to figure out a way to improve their lives, any other little hacks? I mean, I know we covered a lot of stuff. Is there anything else that you think we need to share?
I think we've covered it all, but just recapping, I think people just need to understand and learn their bodies and learn what their body is trying to tell them, everything from mind, spirit to physical. Our body will heal itself, and it's also telling you what's going on with it. And so I think the more in tuned we become with our bodies and our mind and our spirituality, I think those things will definitely help us to a more healthier lifestyle all the way around holistically.
Which comes back to reflection, right?
Absolutely.
Physical, mental, spiritual. Check in with yourself, be aware, follow your intuition, your gut, and all the tools are at our fingertips.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right.